Yeah, I think the bigger picture is really Lithium Valley itself. I mean, Lithium Valley is 51,000 acres. It is the largest known geothermal mineralised brine resource on the planet.
Yeah.
It can individually or on its own supply enough for the US supply chain to get away from exports, China and places like that.
Right.
CTR has a significant holding out there. It's approximately 4,500 to 5,000 acres of resource area.
Yeah.
Which
so
has
it's just big piece of land, you're saying?
big piece of land, but you don't really need that much land on the surface. It's
Right.
subsurface. So 8,000 feet below is a massive mineralised, superheated churning of brine, right? And this brine has been produced the same way for 45 years this year by Region 1, Cal Energy. Very long history, right? And
So this is not a new type of
No.
system. This has already been in...
Yeah, even the lithium recovery is not that new. I mean, if you think about history, I mean, the Region 1 of 44 or 45 years has been producing power and recovering minerals all of those years.
Right.
One of those minerals may not be lithium right now, and lithium's only one where they used to recover zinc back in the day. So very large resource. I think, overall, as far as CTR is concerned, we're looking at this as scale and scalability. So scale is one thing, like I just spoke about. The whole thing is massive, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to do that, we've got to look at this like you would do a panhandle development, oil and gas type development, where replication and scalability through the same, 7 to 10 steam turbines, 40 wells, and look at the scale that way. And that's where we're going to get reduced cost, become more efficient and replicate instead of sort of designing one plant, then next door they have one that's the same power but it'll look completely different.
Right.
We're all about replication. So.
Right. Just making it efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are, worried that, they're going to see these big old mines and big old holes in the ground. That's not something that you guys are going to be doing, right? This is a closed system that I'm going to put up a graphic of the closed system that you guys showed, a graphic that basically is pulling out from the ground that you guys are already doing, right? Can you explain a little bit how that works with that closed system?
So it is a closed loop system. Again, we bring brine from 8,000 to 9,000 feet below the surface.
And you guys were already doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already doing that. So
We've
already...
done the wells, we've done the testing and everything else. And the industry's been doing it for 45 years, like I said.
So it's nothing...
Same closed loop system. I think the simple way to think about it, look at what's been going on out there for 45 years, and lithium recovery or any minerals recovery is a natural extension of that, because all that brine goes back in a closed loop, back into the formation. So in simple terms, the brine comes up, it's about 600 degrees, right? The best way to cool the brine is run it through a steam turbine. You can see on the back wall here.
Yeah,
that makes renewable energy 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Sun doesn't set on geothermal, by the way. Right. And then, you have to get to lithium recovery, you've got to remove silica, iron, and other critical minerals.
Yeah.
You have to remove them. So we remove those minerals. They're all commercial products. And then we have a clean brine stream with lithium still in it. We recover the lithium. Then everything else goes back down the formation. There's no byproducts, waste products or anything. So it's not mining.
Wow.
Yeah, so the closed loop system effectively is the well that brings the brine up to the surface in a closed loop and goes back into the ground on the other end. The DLE or the lithium recovery system is part of that process, just like the steam turbine is part of that process, just like the other critical minerals that are removed are part of that closed loop process. Absolutely. Water, there is a use of water. It can never be zero. It'd be like Coca-Cola without water in it. Basically, lithium hydroxide is 53% water by weight. And the Salton Sea field is very well managed, so you inject water to keep the manage of what steam comes out. There's no waste products when it comes to water. There's nothing that really contacts the atmosphere. And at the moment, from an engineering standpoint, we're at 8 cycles per 1 gallon of water of recycling through that system. So, and most water we can catch either through drain water or fresh water, but it's It's world class when it comes to compared to the salars or hard rock mining, where the lowest water use of all types of applications for lithium and minerals recovery. There is an element of water, and the work on recycling, it is a closed loop system, so there's no evaporation with this product. We just use hot steam to be able to concentrate, if that makes sense. Where the salars, if you go to the Atacama, South America, you'll see 10,000 acres of evaporation ponds. You don't see any of that here. I think our whole site area is less than 60 acres. No one. I mean, the lawsuit was lodged 3 days after we had our groundbreaking ceremony with John Podesta and the crew out here. So it caught us all by surprise. So CCV lodged, Earthworks lodged that, I think, literally a few days after the groundbreaking ceremony. So
there wasn't even hey, we want to talk about this. We sent emails trying to get in contact. Nothing about that.
No, it's. Wow. Yeah, I think, Judge Jones made it pretty clear, right? I mean, there was no technical merit to any claim, which was, okay, we create dust, right? But we mitigate under CEQA by putting blacktop roads down, right?
Right.
Every idiot understands that.
It's very simple,
The water use, like they're claiming to be the steward of the water. Well, it's like connecting to a house. We go to the IID, the actual utility. The utility had its own mitigation. They've got 1,800 acres of mitigation up there near an island, right? So they cover all of that. So we just connect like anyone else, like your home would, to industrial or domestic use. Covering the environment, the ponds, is ridiculous because you need access to the ponds. You've got to clean them out and all the rest. So it's there's no environmental hazards. Yeah. And really the main point is CEQA is the most arduous environmental permitting laws on the planet. Trust me. So
super agree with that.
We spent, an extra 8 months before we even lodged the damn thing. Like it must have weighed 40 pounds with studies on studies on studies, and there's nothing there that was credible in any of the claims. I won't go into the details, but there's just been this which is out there now. I think God knows where that come from. Right. But there's always just been a claim to be another government, another tax, or whatever they try to justify it. Which to
me, honestly, personally, that's what it feels like, because it's like you guys already did your triple checks, and you need a fourth check by some guy that doesn't have anything to do with your business? Like, what? No, how does that work?
Go and run for government.
Right.
Go and run
like you said, yeah. Great quote, by the way.
We're setting up a quasi-government, and in fact, we've already unfairly, we accepted the Lithium Valley tax consultancy in the community. In fact, we invented the concept. All right. We don't want people, out there working in that crap with the dust and everything else. Yeah. So, I mean, there was measures already made. There's nothing that we hadn't already mitigated or we had to do by law. We just self-assessed mitigation and programs that we got going. I mean, no, there's no legitimate claim, put it that way.
Okay.
You just mentioned that you unfairly accepted that lithium tax. Could you explain the unfairly part?
Well, it's just the way it was calculated. I mean, ad valorem is a normal method. So like every other state and country is like 2%, 3%. And I think falsely at the time, there was false narrative in the newspapers, God forbid, that lithium was $80,000 a tonne. That's never been the case. That was a Chinese entity buying 200 tonnes of lithium. That 80,000. Like now, a Chinese entity now is buying lithium for 8,000. So go figure it out. So they calculate the tax on the 80, and it's a very, very high number. It is a lot of money, and I think I can't remember the split between salt and sea restoration on top of that. So that revenue they're talking about is the split between what the state gets, whether it's 80-20 or 50-50, I can't remember, that goes to the county for allocation from the Lithium Valley tax. The other percentage goes to salt and sea restoration plans, right? So you have some great partners out there like Sierra Club and others that are doing great projects, right, near Bombay Beach and others, that goes towards that. And the original concept we said, look, let's make it 50-50 or whatever the number was to dust, because we didn't want the dust as well on the north end. So in a way, if 30% goes to the north end, as far as communities goes, and a certain percentage, which is quite a lot, goes to dust mitigation, that, they're affected more by dust just simply by being anywhere from Calapat north, right?
Well, that means that the sooner Lithium Valley takes off, the
faster it can be restored.
Well, it's everything. This frivolous lawsuit, by the way, I mean, complete bullshit. I mean, we have put us back 12 months. Historically, there's a very low chance, less than 8% chance of even getting to the appellant's court because Judge Jones's ruling was so specific, if you read it, very implicit on the technical challenges. You can't appeal on your own because you feel that you're not, this is good enough, or you feel that it's not, there's dust.
It's just everybody gets a chance to
technically,
appeal.
but technically, the technical merits is what's won. We know we've won, and we're moving forward. So I don't really give a rat's ass about El Modo and all of the rest of them. We're just ploughing forward. That's it. It's just a shame we've lost. You never make up time.
So just got to move forward.
Yeah. Well, it's two sides. I mean, one, your question is about grants, right?
Yeah.
So investigate.
Yes.
That's straight up. Seriously, like, do your due diligence. I mean, there's been money coming in, even GM and others over the years, and they don't get anything for it. They don't get an update. They get nothing, and they're too embarrassed to do anything about it.
Right.
Then there's a practical sense. I mean, we want battery assembly, we want data centres, we want all of them. Now they're fighting data centres because they think they use too much water. Well, have the balls to stand up and say, fuck off, basically. So just toe the line. Don't give in to them. We're the only company that's actually taken them on and said, get out of here. This is, morally there's a higher ground here.
Right.
So everyone has to, in the industry's got to stand up and no, we won't be bullied, we won't be, threatened like intimidated and all that crap. So we just got to get on and do it, and I hope everyone follows suit, because I know that the rest of seems like I wouldn't say all the public, but a lot of folks are starting to understand what's really going on. So I think some of those questions are related to solar, clearly, where they take out good quality agricultural land, build a solar field, you get a bunch of people here, stay at Motel 8 for a few months, and then there's no one, right? Because solar doesn't need anyone to operate them. Plus they take the ag jobs away. That's a very legitimate concern. In fact, we have the same concerns about that. So obviously, number one, we're not on any ag land. We don't hardly use any land like our friends at Solar do. Number two, the construction side is we have full PLAs for all trades, including scheduled servicing. So that's 480 construction jobs that, if you think about the whole deal, it sort of keeps rolling over a 6 to 8 year period. And then operating jobs on top of that is around about 180 to 220 roughly per stage, and we'll probably get more efficient with that because geothermal is 24/7, right? It's 3 shifts around, and when it comes to fly in, fly out, if that's the other argument, people might think, trades is, what is it? It's 90%, 95% trades, and it's about the equal amount percentage local. And we've done it ourselves. If you can operate a John Deere tractor and a power takeoff and pump, you can go to Ivy College and, pretty much double your salary. And we've done it ourselves, So there's courses available, again, geothermal and even lithium now with Efriarm and others that are out here at Ivy College. It's just a natural extension of an industry that's been around for a long time. So it's absolutely trades and it's local, and they're good career jobs. And if you look at our friends at BHE, close to 300 or whatever, one of the biggest private employers, you don't really hear about it. So there's statements about using solar to try to deter people's thinking. Good tactic, but it's quite foiled right up front. Oh, they're great. I mean, if you go out there, they've got the operating platforms. Like I said, they've been there for years, the geothermal platforms. I think Riverside and some of the other, universities, UC Riverside and some of the others have donated additional equipment. You see the SDSU STEM facility and things like that, extensions. So all the resources are here. I can tell you now, one of the issues in Australia is remote, all day, 14 hours of flying just to get to a mine site. Fly in, fly out. That's where that FIFO thing comes from. That's not the case here. All the talent's here. And I'll use the reference again. If you If you're a farm worker, you can operate a piece of machinery, you are way ahead. And, you know, it's the talent's all here. We don't know, it's south of the border and it's here. Or everything we need. We don't need to go anywhere. It's not like you're flying people in from Canada. Besides getting off the plane, they'd probably die today, like at 110 degrees, 120 degrees, they wouldn't survive. Just general operating and maintenance jobs. I mean,
regarding like to turbines like that, is that what?
It's to operate them, service them, and run them. I mean, the servicing of specialist equipment. So every year we might go down. You'll have some specialists for that type of work. Specialist engineers rebalancing those big. That's 5-ton turbine there. So things like that. But most of it is these things. Just they run at a 97% capacity factor. And you're operating all the time. As long as the oil pressure is good, you've got a bunch of sequences, or if you're doing a black start or from scratch, there's a bit more to it, but just operating and maintaining the equipment is the textbook's been around again for 45 years. And lithium is just another extension of pipes and pumps. So I use my tractor analogy, a power takeoff, right? You know what that is. The extension of pumps and pipes and tanks is exactly the same methodology as lithium's geothermal has applied for 45 years. I know more about this than you could possibly imagine, so growing up, cotton chipping into shearing sheep to driving tractors. I mean, it's the fundamentals of all things, right? And particularly, ironically, what we're doing, right? So, yes, the pipes are a little hotter. There's safety measures part of it, but it's a very, very stable business. The stability of the business, the stability is not an up and down, like gas plants or other types of plants. This was just steady state, right? So you're servicing, you're greasing things, you're doing things, that are just steady state.
So how much does, if somebody lands one of those entry level jobs, how much does it pay?
Well, I think the entry level operator jobs are around 82,000.
That's pretty good.
It's a good career. I mean, we got one young guy that.
I think I'm gonna drop what I'm doing.
Me too. The janitorial service is not paying. Do the course. I mean, I got guys here that can give you all of the details of what's involved. But talk to every arm or talk to someone at IV College in your own and just see what it's all about. It's not a long, it might be 6 months part-time. I haven't got the facts, but it's not an arduous course, right? It is trade work. I mean, it's concrete, pipes, pumps. No matter if it's construction or operating, it's much the same, right? It's the pressure's right. You don't let this get in the red. It's like operating a tractor. I love using that because it's all the same. If you're operating something and you got your planer on the back, you're watching shit, right? You're watching gauges. It's the same fundamental. You just got to learn to drive that John Deere tractor, and you can do that out at the local John Deere workshop out here at IV College, right? I'm just trying to put it into terms because it's not what people think. It's not a bunch of scientists and lab rats that are in there, and it's not. You have a laboratory. We've got some folks there, but it's not the majority, and I would say that's probably 10%. We will soon. We got to get back on. We got to get reset. I mean, this last 12 months has really been a kick in the guts, So we'll get reset again, and we'll start slowly because it takes time. You got to have operators while you're in construction mode, even though they're not operating for another 18 months or so, because they're the ones writing the manuals. And the best education you can give them, besides the course, get them in the office here, start writing the operating manuals, because then you know what I mean? You're not just reading, you're doing the work under good guidance. And I think that geothermal, as you guys probably know if you've been around for a while, there has been no new geothermal for a long time. So there's this gap between experience. You've got the older guys there and you've got the new young guys, and we've got a few of them next door, but they're trying to get educated and get up to speed. They're the next generation that's going to kick on. It's the procedure manuals, the procedures, the start-off procedures. I mean, the basis are there.
Oh,
but
you're talking about like
how to operate. Like you can do a course, but you just can't turn up and operate a live. So we want folks talking about timing of. We're not talking about once we start the plant, then we're going to go out to market for people. We've got to do that 12 months, well, more than 12 months ahead of start of operation. So somewhere in construction, and it's always good for operators to come out when they're placing machinery and do field trips and all of that. As we get going, I know we're here, but we'll set up in Calapat closer and start to get folks in there. You know, it's interesting up there too, you know, it's added to that, we sold all our residential properties. We had quite a few in Calapat trying to spark something. So this company just bought them. They're building another 42 two-bedroom apartments, another six-pack. So, you know, the undertakings that are going on up there to plan for this are quite real when you think about it. You hear about this stuff, but those acquisitions are happening and those plannings and approvals are going through the approval process and they'll start construction. So, you know, there's places to work, you've got to live somewhere, you've got to do all these sort of other side of the social side of it. Yeah, so the OEMs, and even more so now with the trade wars, trade situation, without getting into tariffs, politics, but GM and Stellantis and others are looking for good, clean lithium or raw material supplies, domestic supplies. But also it's important to them is CO2 part of it. Is it clean and green? Well, yes, we sort of tick off most of those boxes. Is it local? Yes, we tick off those boxes. And I think that beyond that, we're working pretty diligently on, instead of putting that into bags, that lithium product, and sending that offshore to process that further here ultimately into cathodes and battery assembly would be the ultimate goal once we get there. Practically speaking, right, I mean, shipping this stuff doesn't make any sense. Yes. You put it on a truck, put it on in a bag, on a truck, on a ship, send it to China and send it back. You send it back and you got all the risk and forklifts going through stuff. I mean, that's one side of it. And the cost is crazy, right? To see a 24,000 kilometre carbon footprint gets deleted. Yeah. So, and then you delete $85 million in bagging, put a pipe through the wall. You know, I'm oversimplifying it, but, you know, that's effectively the opportunity, right? Yeah. You've got, define refining. So there's lithium recovery. So you've got rocks, hard rock. You've got salars, so salts. Or you got us, we produce lithium chloride, right? Then you've got conversion. So China does all of that. All the rocks, hard rock, and all of the salars type salts all go to China for refining. We do that here already, right? So we do recovery and conversion, refining and conversion, either carbonate or hydroxide. And the next step now is, can you take that lithium carbonate or hydroxide to literally the battery cell? Whatever chemistry it might be, lithium iron phosphate or lithium manganese, nickel, whatever. And I'm explaining in the same way as the John Deere tractor. It's very obvious, right? You don't have to be an economist to know the savings and the benefits, right? So one cathode facility alone is 2,500 people. So you think about that, right? And then if the complex employs X amount of people, I mean, according to IVDC and others, I mean, there's 4 people that support everyone that's on the company. You know, you've got services and this whole ecosystem, but we're not there yet, but you can sort of see where we're heading. It's all about localising the supply chain. The US hasn't done it for years. And the opportunity's right here, right under our own noses, from a national security point of view to just commercial common sense. Get people busy, get people jobs, and let's do it, you know. Yeah, so, I mean, if you move on for lithium for a little bit, I mean, potassium, right? Potassium, which they say the world will starve without it, you know, in 50 years. I mean, the US imports over 7 million tonnes of potassium from Belarus and Canada. We can service the whole US potassium industry right here. It's the biggest low-hanging fruit we have. I mean, everyone talks about lithium because it's sexy, but, you know, there's industry that you know, this brine, this soup, superheated soup is full of pretty much everything, or lots of, not all of it, but most of it that the US is depending on so desperately on other countries. So here it is. We just got to
open up regulations to
Exactly.
It makes what Comite Civico doing much worse.
Well, yeah, my point. Yeah.